This is a part of the famous movie called The Day After Tomorrow. This movie exaggerated described the terrible catastrophe caused by the climate change and global warming problems. Icebergs from Antarctic pole melted, caused by global temperature increasing, results in terrible tsunami, which destroyed New York City, killed thousands of people. After watching this movie, you may be astounded by the movie's special effects. However, have you ever thought about if those screams from the movie would become true one day? Have you realized that the climate change problems gradually become a very urgent and severe problems of our Earth? The truth is that in the last 100 years, the Earth's temperature has increased about half a degree Celsius. This may not sound like much, but the sea level also has risen 6 to 8 inches in the last 100 years. Right now, the situation becomes worse. If we keep ignoring the climate change problems, the catastrophe happened in the movie may one day become true. The good news is we still have a chance and the opportunity to solve the climate change problem, to cool our Earth and make us a better life. We should act immediately.
Hello everyone, we are Cooler World Better Life Organization, a group of scientists that study climate change. This video is a documentary that will show the work done while we're researching Canada. The world's climate is changing, and the changes will have an enormous impact on our planet's people, ecosystems, cities, and energy use. Average global air temperatures are already 1.5 degrees higher than they were at the start of the 20th century and have risen about 1 degree over just the last 30 years. Other evidence to it is the sea level rise, the warming of oceans, glacial retreat, and some other natural phenomena. According to the latest reports from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the IPCC, average global temperatures are likely to rise by another 2 to 8.6 degrees Fahrenheit by 2100. If we take aggressive action to reduce emissions, the temperature could be modest. However, if we continue on our present course, the amount of change will be substantial. Changes in temperature and precipitation will affect natural habitats and managed ones, with impact on agriculture and food supplies of particular concern to a growing human population. There will be opportunities as well as risk associated with climate change, but in balance, impacts are expected to become increasingly negative as global average surface temperature becomes increasingly warmer.
Hi everybody, my name is Huang. I'm the coordinator of our team called Cooler World and Better Life. So we are focusing on dealing with the climate change and global warming problems. We are helping the Canada government to make a better policy to deal with the global warming and climate change problems, especially from 3 aspects, including the adaptation, mitigation, and environmental engineering. So our group was constructed by 5 great scientists in the world. So Dr. Huang is a biochemist and ecologist, and Dr. Zhu Jingzi, he is a sociologist, and he was the advisor of Canada in UNFCCC program in 2009. Alimail is an environmental engineer and focusing on developing the cleaning energy. Wang worked for Chinese Environmental Research Department for 3 years. Professor Fashina Bolu is a geographer, specially focusing on climate change and global warming problems. So as a group of scientists, we will provide practical and professional recommendations to the Canadian government for climate change problems. So in the following video, we will introduce our results. Hope you guys enjoy our video. Among many vulnerabilities of Canada environment, the first one is the floods. We all know that Canada has the coldest temperature in the world. However, the temperature rising caused the mountain snowmelt begins to appear on many areas of Canada. For instance, the Alberta's floods in 2013. The powerful rains drenched the region for almost 2 weeks. During the disaster, 6 people died and thousands of others were forced from their homes by days. The damage of community facilities is about $1.7 billion. Even though the flood only lasting for 2 weeks, its terrible influences will continue for several years, including loss of investigation by surrounding region and chronic mental impact of local residents. Recently, floods happen more and more frequently in Canada, and most of them were caused by mountain snowmelt. The second vulnerability of Canada's environment is the severe temperature rising in northern Aboriginal populations. The ecological system impacted by extreme weather such as heat waves, storms, wildfire affect the health of local residents. Many diseases newly occurred in those regions, including asthma and chronic respiratory disease. Also, the agriculture and hunting field were impacted severely. Large amount of population immigration caused the insufficient supplyment of resources from surrounding areas. The third vulnerability is the over-deforestation. Canada is a world leader in sustainable forest management because Canadian forests are healthy, productive, and thriving. Even though the deforestation offered Canada many economic benefits, it impacted the Canadian environment seriously and caused many climate change problems. Deforestation is an important issue since shrinking forests covered reduced biodiversity, affects soil and water quality, impacts wildlife habits, and many cause climate change directly. Fish industry also is a vulnerability of Canada. Climate factors such as air and water temperature and participation and wind patterns strongly influence fish health, productivity, and distribution. According to our research, the global temperature increasing will continually affect the habit and population of fish and other marine organisms related to Canada fish industry. Moreover, the fish industry combined with the climate change impacts would cause many extinction of fish. In this case, the ecological system of ocean may be destroyed. Also, the insufficient of fish supplement would change dietary habit of local residents. The last but not least vulnerability of Canada is agricultural impacts on climate change. In general, droughts in Canada affect only 1 or 2 regions, are relatively short-lived, and only impact a small number of economic sectors. However, in contrast, the drought years of 2001-2002 covered massive areas, were long-lasting, and brought substantial impacts in many economic sectors. The net impact on agriculture are not clear and depend heavily on assumptions, including the effectiveness of adaptation. Every coin has 2 sides. Some vulnerabilities may also have some benefits to Canadian environment. The first opportunity caused by the snowmelt and flood is hydrological system regeneration. The flood happened in Canada can reduce sediment loads, filtering nutrients and impurities, and moderating water temperature in Alberta. Those benefits would help the local ecological system to regenerate rapidly. Secondly, Canada has lots of potential to reduce oil and gas methane emissions. Achieving at least a 45% now reduction would allow for the recovery and potential sale of otherwise lost natural gas and would be the equivalent of eliminating 27 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. This will help to deal with the climate change problems effectively. Also, preventing cutting down natural forests and through true planting that will lead to the partial restoration of natural capacities, which also leads to get new land for cultivation. Again, the temperature increasing would cause the snow melt, which can offer more fresh water for agriculture. And the development of agriculture can stimulate the ecological system and economic system of Canada.
The history of fossil fuel burning in Canada. The beginning of commercial production in NB began in 1825. In 1853, a Canadian chemist, Abraham Jenner, discovered the way to distill from petroleum. But before 1950s, coal was primary source of fuel for heating homes, institutes, energy, and transportation. To the 1970s, natural gas gained its importance. Natural gas had been treated as waste product of oil and burned off. Pulp and paper industry has been most instrumental in the reduction of heavy fuel oil use at the national level. The industry cut its consumption of heavy fuel oil in 1990 and in 2005 by more than half. The decline was particularly strong in the Atlantic Province and British Columbia, where pulp and paper is relatively more important, and to less extent in Quebec. But on the other hand, Canada's current emission relative to other countries. Canadian CO2 emission from fuel emission had increased by less than 24% between 1990 and 2010, where Canada's share of total global emissions, like that other developed country, will continue to decline in the phase of rapid emission growth from developing countries, particularly China and India. Canada extends its effort beyond the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change by working with other coalitions to develop particular and collaborative initiatives to reduce GHG emission and short-lived climate pollutants. Canada's annual deforestation rate in 2010 was less than 0.02%, and the rate has been declining for over 25 years. In 1990, 64,000 hectares were lost to deforestation, and in 2012 this figure dropped to 45,800 hectares. Since shrinking forest cover reduces biodiversity, it affects many aspects, such as soil, water, even wildlife. The industrialization revolution that happened in Canada between 1860 to 1950 was more than gradual than the name of revolution might suggest, but it played a major change in how people lived and worked, so it made us think of it as revolution. Canada is fortunate to be a rich nation in many natural resources such as trees, water, oil, and gas, while risks development and industrial activities have increased deforestation in localized regions. Because of industrialization, Canada shifted from agriculture to manufacturing, which makes all of these development and industrial activity take down a lot of trees in Canada's forests to make their own businesses.
Now I'm going to talk about Canada's involvement in UNFCCC. Canada is an active participant in the UNFCCC and joined the UNFCCC with other countries in 1992. There are some platforms Canada involved, providing greenhouse gases emission data on a annual basis, reporting on our program in reducing net greenhouse gases emission, providing finance and technical resource to developing countries, especially the poorest and the most vulnerable, to assist them in combating climate change. And the last one, conducting scientific observation of the world's climate system and research on climate change and its impacts. The Kyoto Protocol to the UNFCCC, which entered into force in 2005, committed developed countries listed in the protocol to individual target to limit or reduce their greenhouse gases emission. Under the term of the Kyoto Protocol, 38 industrialized countries, including Canada, individually undertook a legally binding commitment to reduce their respective emissions of a basket of 6 greenhouse gases. And during 2008 to 2012, with the goal of cutting their collective emissions of greenhouse gases by 5.2% from the 1990 level, Canada's target is an average of 6% below 1990 level over the 2008 to 2012 period. Now, I'm talking about some programs that Canada involved. The first one is Global Methane Initiative to reduce global methane emission and to advance the abatement, recovery and use of the methane as a valuable clean energy resource. The benefit of this program is the implementation of the project that significantly reduces emissions in methane. The second program I'm going to talk about is Climate and Clean Air Coalition. This program aims at advancing efforts to reduce short-lived climate pollutants in ways that protect the environment and the public health, promote food and energy security, and address near-term climate change. The impact of this program is short-lived climate pollutants are substances such as black carbon, which have a relatively short lifespan in the atmosphere compared to carbon dioxide and other longer-lived greenhouse gases. The third program I'm going to talk about is internationally determined contribution to reduce greenhouse gases emission. The impact of this program is, despite withdrawing from the Kyoto Protocol in 2011, Canada has maintained its target under the convention to reduce emission by 70% below 2005 levels by 2020, which translates to a 7% increase in emissions from 1990 levels. The fourth program Canada involved is reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, serves as a platform to scale up action and finance to reduce emissions from deforestation and forest degradation in developing countries. Emissions of greenhouse gases from forest land can be reduced by slowing down the rate of the deforestation and forest degradation. The last program I'm going to talk about is Major Economics Forum on Energy and Climate. Why? The Major Economics Forum also provides an important venue for broader international collaboration on development, demonstration, and the deployment of transformational clean energy technology. The benefit of this program is moving to a clean energy economy provides an opportunity to promote continued economic growth and sustainable development as part of a joint response to the danger posed by climate change.
Now for the vulnerable populations. As in most countries, social or economic trends still place women at a disadvantage in absorbing any additional cost associated with recovering from or preparing for the effects of climate change. For example, in 1998, an ice storm in Quebec, women were at a greater risk of suffering from psychological effects than men because they often are faced with the need to recover from the event while continuing to fulfill household and external demands. In terms of the poor, resources which are relied by low-income people would easily be destroyed by disasters caused by climate change. For example, fish population decreasing in northern Canada caused fishermen to lose income. Indigenous people, most importantly the Aboriginal population, whom we know are prone to a lot of health issues, face serious health or living problems caused by climate change. They will be affected by special local natural disaster caused by climate change, such as extreme cold weather, hurricane, tornado, and floods, which could lead to a potentially dangerous spread of diseases. Climate change disasters have and will also continue to increase malnutrition and certain diseases that often will easily infect disabled people who have a vulnerable immune system. Due to their lack of enough mobile ability, disabled people are more easily to die in the disaster caused by climate change. During Alberta's flood in Canada, death rate or injured rate of disabled people are much more than healthy people. Trying to deal with these various vulnerable groups, we suggest that women are more involved in climate change discussions so that they are more educated about the perspective. It is important that the Canadian nation comes together to help the likes of the poor, disabled, and indigenous by giving out donations and offering shelter in the telling times.
We have some recommendations for them. First, the government should do more clean energy investment in green infrastructure, energy efficiency, clean energy technology, cleaner fuels, and smarter grids. As what we know today, solar energy, wind energy, electric power cars are recommendations for government, even though it will cost a lot. Secondly, we better to eliminate gender inequality in departments of climate change to increase women participation of discussion of climate change policy in government. Canada can offer more rights to women when deciding a critical decision about the policy of climate change problem. Because based on our research, women would tend to deal with the climate change problems more perspective and creative. They are more likely to recommend government to use clean energy. Thirdly, more and more natural disaster and catastrophe due to the climate change came out in Canada, such as flood and earthquake. In this case, Canada should create a policy to deal with those emergency situations. Fourth, we recommend to reduce emission of greenhouse gas in several aspects. Reduce deforestation, reducing oil and methane emissions, and we divide it into two parts: individual emissions and industrial emission. The last recommendation, Canada should take more responsibility in UNFCCC as a developer country that contribute a lot toward climate change in the past. Canada should be more active to participate in UNFCCC. Now we can do cost-benefit analysis and social analysis of recommendation cost. To reduce emission of greenhouse gases, we will spend some money on investment of green infrastructure, energy efficiency, clean energy technologies, cleaner fuels, and smarter grids, and tree planting. Providing some education on bringing up awareness of reducing greenhouse gases. The benefits are directly reducing emissions of greenhouse gas and increase awareness in the future generation. For the social impacts, it will strengthen awareness. Firms that were forced to introduce green plants will increase its cost shortly, and however, it is good for the long-term operation. In addition, when we take more responsibility in UNFCCC, it will cost investment based on the policies that will follow the UNFCCC rules and investment the developing or poor countries. Participation of UNFCCC can give Canada an opportunity to communicate and cooperate with other countries like China, America, and Russia more effectively to deal with the climate change problems. Also, it can help Canada to improve its international imaging. As a result, more countries will be called into the group of UNFCCC, more cooperation will be derived. And we decide to prevent from disaster and catastrophe. It will cost some preparation for disasters. The area will be more protective and the recovery more quickly after catastrophe. Furthermore, we eliminate the gender inequality in government because women will tend to deal with the climate change problem more perspective and creative. By eliminating the gender inequality, society of Canada will become more harmless.
What are the most suitable adaptation options? Clear criteria like urgency, costs, and political and social acceptance can help to prioritize adaptation options, such as flood preparedness measures, improvement of drainage systems, wetland restoration, and coastal management. Adaptation is a learning process. We all need to continuously improve our adaptation strategies, and making climate change adaptation a topic at all levels is important. There are many resources available that can support these activities, such as online information platforms like CI GRASP. We need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. And we must start acting today, together. Involve decision makers. Increase understanding about climate change. Create awareness about the need for society to adapt. These are important first steps. Preparing for possible things to come is much better than bearing the impacts of climate change without any protection. We know enough. Now let's adapt.